A legend is about to return. The fairy tale that defined romance for an entire generation is stepping back into the spotlight. Netflix has confirmed what fans thought they would never see. Pretty Woman is coming back. And yes, Julia Roberts is ready to walk in those iconic shoes once again. When the news first broke, it felt like a dream. A film that started as a small Hollywood romance, a movie no one expected to become a worldwide phenomenon, has now been given a brand new life. Netflix, the streaming giant known for surprising announcements, has officially confirmed Pretty Woman 2. After 35 years since the release of the first film, Julia Roberts is returning to play Vivian Ward, the character that made her a superstar. Think about it, Pretty Woman wasn't just another romantic comedy. It was the movie that changed the way audiences looked at love stories. Released in 1990, it introduced us to a fairy tale unlike any other. A story about chance encounters, personal growth, and two people from different worlds finding each other in the most unexpected way. Julia Roberts' wide smile and effortless charm turned Vivian into a timeless icon. And Richard Gere's quiet elegance made Edward Lewis the perfect counterpart. Together, they didn't just act out a love story, they defined it. Now, after all these years, Netflix is ready to take us back into that world. The official confirmation came after weeks of rumors, whispers across social media, and hints dropped by industry insiders. Fans thought it was impossible, but the impossible is now reality. Julia Roberts, who has been very selective with her roles in recent years, has chosen to step back into the role that made her a household name. For Netflix, this isn't just another project, it's a historic moment. Why is this such a big deal? Because Pretty Woman is more than just a film. It is a cultural milestone. It has been replayed endlessly on television, referenced in countless shows, and celebrated across generations. The soundtrack alone, with Roy Orbison's unforgettable song, "Oh, Pretty Woman," became part of cinema history. To announce a sequel now, in 2025, is to awaken a wave of nostalgia that has been building for decades. The reaction was instant. Within minutes of Netflix's announcement, hashtags like #PrettyWoman2 and #JuliaReturns started trending worldwide. Fans posted old movie clips, iconic stills, and personal stories of how the original film touched their lives. For many, this movie is a piece of their youth. For others, it's a story they discovered later, yet still fell in love with. And now, all of them are united in anticipation of what's coming next. But this isn't just about nostalgia. This is about passing a story to a new generation. Netflix is known for breathing new life into classics, giving them modern perspectives while keeping the heart of the original alive. With Pretty Woman 2, the stage is set for something daring, honoring the magic of the past while writing a new chapter that feels relevant in today's world. As the spotlight shines once again on Julia Roberts, one question lingers. How will Vivian Ward's story continue? The world has changed. Relationships have changed. Beverly Hills itself has changed. But the one thing that remains timeless is the power of love stories that feel both magical and real. And with Roberts back in the lead, the expectations are sky high. For now, one thing is certain, the fairy tale is far from over. Pretty Woman is back not as a memory, but as a living, breathing story ready to unfold before our eyes once again. And this time, the world is watching together. On Netflix, when you think about the greatest love stories ever told on screen, Pretty Woman is never far from the top. Released in March of 1990, it wasn't expected to become a cultural juggernaut. In fact, the early drafts of the film were much darker, telling a grittier story of survival. But what eventually made it to the screen was nothing short of magic, a modern-day Cinderella story wrapped in charm, humor, and heart. The legacy of Pretty Woman begins with its lead, Julia Roberts. At just 22 years old, Roberts stepped into the role of Vivian Ward, a woman whose life on the margins takes a sudden turn when she meets wealthy businessman Edward Lewis, played by Richard Gere. What could have been a simple rich man saves poor woman story became something much deeper. Vivian was not just a damsel in distress. She was smart, funny, bold, and unafraid to speak her mind. Julia Roberts didn't just play Vivian, she was Vivian. That smile, that laugh, that sparkle in her eyes. It all became unforgettable. The movie was more than a hit, it was a phenomenon. On a budget of just $14 million, it earned nearly $500 million worldwide. It stayed in theaters for months, drawing audiences again and again. And critics, though divided at first, soon admitted that Roberts had delivered one of the most captivating performances of the decade. That performance earned her an Academy Award nomination and cemented her as Hollywood's newest it girl, but the impact went far beyond the box office. The film became a blueprint for modern romantic comedies. Its mix of romance, comedy, and fantasy inspired countless movies that followed. The shopping spree scene, where Vivian walks into a boutique and later returns with the iconic line, "Big mistake, huge," became legendary. The hotel piano scene, the opera night, the final rooftop rescue with Edward climbing a fire escape with flowers in hand, all of these moments etched themselves into the hearts of audiences. The soundtrack, too, became part of its legacy. Roy Orbison's "Oh, Pretty Woman" turned into an anthem, and Roxette's "It Must Have Been Love" played across radios worldwide. Even today, when those songs play, people immediately think of Julia Roberts walking down Rodeo Drive or Richard Gere in his limousine. It was not just a film. It was an experience tied to music, fashion, and the feeling of hope. Over the years, Pretty Woman became a generational bridge. Parents who watched it in theaters introduced it to their children. Television reruns kept the story alive, and eventually, streaming services gave it new life. For many young viewers discovering it for the first time, the story still resonated. Why? Because it wasn't just about wealth or status, it was about two people seeing each other for who they really were. The legacy also lies in how it redefined Julia Roberts' career. Without Pretty Woman, she might not have become the superstar we know today. It opened doors to her later roles in Notting Hill, Runaway Bride, and her Oscar-winning performance in Erin Brockovich. And while she grew into more serious roles, fans never forgot the charm of Vivian Ward. That role became inseparable from Roberts' identity as an actress. Beyond Roberts, Pretty Woman elevated Richard Gere as well. Known for more serious roles before, he suddenly became the ultimate romantic lead. The chemistry between Gere and Roberts wasn't forced, it was effortless. That on-screen connection became the heart of the film's success, and why fans have been yearning to see them together again, even decades later. But perhaps the most powerful part of its legacy is the way it made people feel. For many, it was a reminder that love can appear in the unlikeliest of places. That no matter where you come from or what your circumstances are, someone can see the real you and fall in love with that. It wasn't a story about saving someone from their life. It was about transformation, self-worth, and the courage to dream bigger. That's why the announcement of a sequel in 2025 isn't just news, it's a cultural event. Because to revisit Vivian Ward's world means revisiting the emotions and memories tied to the first film. It means reconnecting with the feeling of sitting in a dark theater in 1990, watching Roberts' laugh light up the screen, and believing in love's possibility. Pretty Woman isn't just a movie. It's a piece of history. And its legacy is the reason why, even 35 years later, fans are ready to walk down Rodeo Drive once again. Asterisk, the moment Netflix confirmed Pretty Woman 2, the world didn't just ask, why now? The bigger question was, what will this story be about? After all, revisiting a classic is risky. Sequels to beloved films often face impossible expectations. But Netflix isn't approaching this lightly. Early reports suggest this won't be a simple remake or a lazy continuation. Instead, it will be a bold reimagining, taking Vivian Ward's story into a brand new chapter that reflects the world we live in today. So what do we know so far? First, Julia Roberts is confirmed. Her return is the anchor of this project. She's stepping back into the role of Vivian. But this is not the same wide-eyed young woman we met in 1990. The new film will show her decades later, an empowered, self-made figure who has lived through love, heartbreak, and transformation. Roberts has spoken in past interviews about her reluctance to revisit old roles, which makes her return even more meaningful. She wouldn't come back unless the script had something truly powerful to say. The setting? Modern-day Beverly Hills, but don't expect the same glossy, untouched version from the original. This is Beverly Hills after years of change, where glamour exists side by side with the struggles of real people. The contrast between wealth and survival, between fairy tales and harsh truths, will once again play a major role. The Rodeo Drive of 2025 is more global, more extravagant, and yet more critical of old stereotypes. Seeing Vivian walk those streets again will feel both nostalgic and brand-new. As for the story itself, Netflix has kept the plot under tight wraps, but industry whispers give us some hints. The sequel may explore what happens when fairy tales meet reality. Did Vivian and Edward stay together after the credits rolled in 1990? Or did life take them down different paths? Fans are divided on this. Some want to see the eternal romance continue, while others hope the new film shows Vivian forging her own destiny. Independent of the man who once changed her life, there are also rumors of a role reversal. In this version, Vivian may be the one in a position of influence, facing a world where her success forces her to question love, trust, and loyalty. Imagine Vivian as a powerful figure, perhaps running her own business, mentoring others, or standing as a voice for women carving their paths in a still unfair world. This angle wouldn't erase the magic of the first film, it would deepen it, showing growth and resilience. Casting news remains under speculation. Will Richard Gere return as Edward Lewis? That question alone has fans holding their breath. Gere has not confirmed, but Netflix executives have hinted at legacy characters making appearances. Even if Gere isn't a central figure, the possibility of a cameo or even a pivotal supporting role is high. Beyond that, new faces are expected, likely younger actors who will represent a new generation of dreamers and lovers in Vivian's orbit. Stylistically, Pretty Woman 2 will balance nostalgia with innovation. The original was drenched in 90s romantic comedy charm, warm lighting, sweeping music, and playful banter. This time, Netflix may lean into a slightly more grounded tone, giving the story emotional weight without losing its whimsical touch. Imagine a mix of glossy romance and heartfelt drama, something that appeals to longtime fans while speaking directly to today's audiences. There's also talk of music being a major component again. Just like Roy Orbison and Roxette defined the soundtrack of the first film, Netflix is reportedly in talks with contemporary artists to craft songs that capture the same timeless feeling. The right track could make this sequel unforgettable, just like It Must Have Been. Love still echoes through people's hearts decades later. What makes this project so fascinating is how it reflects real life. Julia Roberts herself is no longer the fresh-faced newcomer. She's a seasoned actress, a Hollywood legend, and a symbol of resilience in an industry that often sidelines women after a certain age. Her return as Vivian mirrors her own journey, a woman who has grown, who has faced challenges, and who still commands the screen with power and grace at its core. Pretty Woman 2 won't just be about romance. It will be about identity, about second chances, about proving that fairy tales don't end when the credits roll, they evolve. And in a world filled with reboots and sequels, this film has the chance to stand apart by offering something more than nostalgia, a continuation that feels necessary. So what do we know about the sequel? Enough to ignite excitement, but not enough to quench the curiosity. Netflix has given us a glimpse of the future, but the full story is still waiting in the shadows. What's certain is this: Julia Roberts is walking back into Vivian's world, and the world is ready to follow her every step. The moment Netflix dropped the announcement, the internet erupted. It wasn't just trending for a few hours, it exploded into a cultural moment. Hashtags like hashtag Pretty Woman 2, hashtag Julia Roberts returns, and hashtag Netflix magic filled Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Fans across the world shared clips of Julia Roberts' iconic laugh, reposted the rooftop rescue scene, and recreated the shopping on Rodeo Drive moment in memes and TikTok skits. Within hours, millions of people were talking about a film that first premiered more than 3 decades ago. What makes this reaction so unique is that it isn't just one generation driving the excitement. It's everyone. The people who watched Pretty Woman in theaters in 1990 are now parents, even grandparents, and they're passing their nostalgia down. Younger audiences who discovered the film on DVD, streaming services, or late-night TV reruns are just as thrilled. The story has never belonged to one era, it has crossed generations, and the announcement of a sequel has given all of them a shared moment of joy. But with excitement also comes curiosity. And a little fear. Fans are divided in their reactions. On one side, there are those who are all in, ready to relive the magic of Vivian Ward's journey. They see this as a chance to revisit a character who shaped their understanding of romance and hope. They want the music, the laughter, the tears, and the fairy tale once more. On the other side, some fans are cautious. They wonder if a sequel can truly capture lightning in a bottle again. They ask the hard questions: will this new film respect the original? Will it preserve the innocence and charm that made it so timeless? Or will it try too hard to be modern and lose what made Pretty Woman unforgettable in the first place? Even critics, usually skeptical of sequels, have admitted that this one feels different. Why? Because Julia Roberts herself is on board. Roberts has never been shy about turning down projects she doesn't believe in. She has repeatedly said in interviews that she wouldn't return to Vivian Ward unless there was a real reason. Her decision to come back has given even the doubters a reason to hope. If Roberts is willing to tell this story again, then maybe, just maybe, there's magic still left in this fairy tale. The buzz hasn't stopped at fans either. Hollywood itself is reacting. Fellow actors, directors, and writers are chiming in. Some are calling it a brave move. Others are calling it the comeback the industry didn't know it needed. The announcement has sparked think pieces in magazines, podcasts about rom-coms of the 90s, and debates on film forums about what the sequel should look like. It's more than a movie, it's a cultural debate, a nostalgic conversation, and a forward-looking experiment all rolled into one. And then there are the dreamers, the fans who are already imagining what Pretty Woman 2 will bring. They're sketching fan posters, writing their own sequel theories, and even imagining modern soundtracks with today's biggest artists. Some imagine Vivian mentoring a younger woman who reminds her of herself. Others dream of Edward and Vivian reuniting after years apart, proving that true love never fades. And some imagine a twist Vivian, now stronger and more independent, writing her own story without anyone else defining it for her. Netflix has cleverly fueled this hype by keeping details secret. The mystery only adds to the energy. Every leaked rumor, every insider report, every speculative blog post keeps the conversation alive. And Netflix knows exactly what it's doing, allowing fans to build the anticipation themselves. As the countdown to 2025 begins, one thing is clear: Pretty Woman 2 is not just a sequel. It's an event. It's a chance to revisit one of the most beloved love stories of all time, but with new eyes and new wisdom. It's a chance for Julia Roberts to remind the world why Vivian Ward mattered then and why she matters now. And that's where the hype reaches its peak. Because this isn't just about a movie release, it's about a collective experience. People from all over the globe, different countries, different generations, are waiting for the same moment. They're waiting to hear the first notes of a new soundtrack. They're waiting to see Julia Roberts smile once again. They're waiting to believe, even for just 2 hours, that fairy tales still exist. So, as the news spreads and anticipation grows, one truth rises above all the debates and speculations. Pretty Woman isn't just walking back into our lives. She's rewriting her story for a new world. And whether you're a skeptic or a believer, when the film finally premieres, you'll be watching. Because some stories are simply too powerful to ignore,